Let's talk about electric vehicles and the growth that we are seeing in the EV sector in India. Well, there's a company called Atul Auto. Its shares have vroomed this year. In fact, one of its major investors, Vijay Kedia, says that the company will be India's Tesla. So what does investor interest in Atul Auto tell about the EV industry right now? You also have JLR, the epitome of luxury and performance, Jaguar Land Rover. Now, they have announced plans to invest, like I was telling you earlier, £15 billion in electric vehicles and also other automation technologies. Audi, BMW, some of the top brands are also investing billions and billions of dollars. It's estimated by the year 2030, more than $1 trillion are going to get pumped into the EV industry. So here we are asking, is the future of electric vehicles already here? Is it only a matter of a few quarters that we see greater choice available in affordable EV as far as India's story is concerned? And before we get the panel of experts on the show to discuss this, let me connect with our colleague Srishti. She is here to tell us about the development plans that are already underway at JLR. Do tell us, Srishti, because big plans have been unveiled. We were talking about it only yesterday here on the show about JLR and its big investments. Now, how much of those investments are going into EV technology?
JLR plans to invest around 1.5 lakh crores in Indian rupees. That is actually 15 billion pounds over the next 5 years. JLR's Halewood plant in UK will become an all-electric manufacturing facility and ahead as JLR continues to focus on their electric portfolio. They also say that JLR, in terms of their reimagined strategy, going ahead with that, their next generation medium-size SUV architecture will be pure electric. The pre-orders will open for their first all-electric Range Rover later this year, and going ahead maybe in 2025 they will start the bookings of this particular car.
That gives us a good understanding as far as JLR's plans are concerned. But of course, there are many players, and we're talking about an Indian Tesla perhaps that's coming through too. But let's discuss the possibilities. Hormazd Sorabjee, editor of Autocar India, with us, along with editor and lead of Times Drive, Kranti Sambhav, and Abhishek Gaoshinde, the deputy vice president for research at Sharekhan, also joining us. Great to have you, gentlemen. Hormazd, coming to you first. I was reading this article in Autocar Professional that you put out in March this year, where it's talking about a big spurt in demand for electric vehicles. Do tell us, in your understanding, Hormazd, what's driving this demand? Because till very recently, we were saying perhaps we should opt for hybrids and not jump into buy EVs, because infrastructure is going to still take time to come. But look, today we're talking about the launch of the MG Comet. We're talking about JLR and its plans for the EV sector. A lot is changing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the pace of electrification in India has been much faster than a lot anticipated. It's caught a lot of manufacturers flat-footed. They're now scrambling to get their EV act together. I mean, obviously, Tata Motors has really raced ahead. They've so far leading this race by a country mile, over 80% share. And I think what's driving EVs is the fact that, they are, I would say, not completely overpriced, and the fact that they come with very low running costs, and the ease and convenience with which you can operate them is fantastic. I would say they're fundamentally still a city phenomenon. They're not really absolutely convenient for highways. It's possible to use them on highways, but not super convenient, as the infrastructure there is still needs to come up to speed. But honestly, as a city car, there's no reason why you shouldn't have an EV. That's if you have a plug, you're not too far away from a plug. And I think it's all these factors. I think what the government has done, especially with all its FAME incentives, and as well as the 5% GST, that's really driving a lot of the growth. And obviously, it's been a small base. So clearly, lots of it's still, I think, around about maybe a couple of percent of the market. So it's still a long way to go. We're not even double digit yet. But I'll tell you one thing. What I'd like to end on is that India hasn't given up on the IC engine either, and that also is going to grow going forward.
All right, so both are going to move alongside. It's not going to be one at the cost of the other. Kranti, how do you see it? Because among the electric vehicles that are lining up for buyers in the market today, the ones that are there already and the ones that are waiting to roll out, do tell us how performance is improving, because the existential EV problems of range, the anxiety around running out of charge, those kind of persist, especially given the distances across India and, of course, our notoriously bad traffic conditions. So how much more are EVs offering today? Where are the gaps as you see them?
So right now, the biggest change what we have seen, Vikram, is the change in the mindset. As Hormazd was saying, that we are looking at electrification of Indian automotive industry, or the traffic, I would say, faster than what anybody had anticipated. But there's one more aspect. If you look at the whole number, and we generally look at just the number and percentage and how the growth is. But if you still look at that growth in electric vehicles in India, the percentage of electric four-wheelers is really low right now. And in that segment, again, Tata Motors is selling 8,000 vehicles a month. That is something, they have captured more than 83% of the market. So in this scenario, what we are seeing is that now with Tata Motors being the pioneer, most of the car manufacturers are looking at their strategies, because now they have seen that the mindset has changed. The Indian customers, especially in the metros, maybe in Delhi, NCR, if you see, now they have started looking at their behavior. Are they actually driving? Do they actually need ICE engine cars? Because most of them are driving 40, 50 kilometers per day. So that mindset has changed. Some of the private players or third parties have entered this charging station game. So that has also improved their whole strategy. But at the same time, what we are seeing, you must have seen MG has recently announced a Comet, which is now from the I guess it should be the cheapest EV or EV four-wheeler in India. So most of the manufacturers are working towards that end, where they know that mindset has changed. Most of the customers have, the first question is not what about charging, and they are ready to spend also, and they are kind of more receptive towards EVs.
So while we are seeing all of this actually rapidly change, Abhishek, as far as four-wheelers are concerned, and only now we're talking about the cheapest EV now in the market, as far as newer products, newer four-wheelers entering the market, that has been slightly slower than what, perhaps not even slightly slower, a lot slower than what we've seen in the two-wheeler universe. How do you understand this difference in terms of the companies that are putting out vehicles in the market and two-wheelers really garnering a bigger share of the EV pie? Perhaps you need to unmute.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are. Please go ahead.
Okay, so it's right that the two-wheeler segment has seen a strong growth in the last year, and definitely helped by this FAME 2 scheme and supported by the number of launches from the legacy players and the new players. But if I can tell you about the statistics, then that if you take the global landscape and then the Indian landscape, that in a global world, the PV segment, electric vehicle, the penetration of electric vehicle has reached to around 14% compared to the 9% earlier. And in India, it is only the 1%. But if you talk about the Indian two-wheeler segment, then the penetration is closing to the 5%. Definitely, it was helped by the this Ola and Okinawa and Ampere have been gained the market share. And second thing is that the demand has been shifting towards scooter segment compared to the motorcycle segment. So my guess is that in 2-3 years down the line, in a scooter segment, other than that of the brand, the fuel means the people would start taking decisions on the fuel, that whether they have to choose ICE or they have to go for electric vehicles. If you talk about the statistics, then based on these registered numbers, so cumulatively whatever we have sold in last 5 years, that in this FY23, that number has itself been doubled. Means in FY23, the total electric two-wheelers sold was roughly over than 7 lakh units, and the cumulative number for previous 5 years was around 3,50,000. So you can see that the kind of penetration increase in this two-wheeler segment in the domestic market. And in the PV segment, it is right that the rally has largely been driven by the Tata Motors, roughly it has sold around 50,000 units in the FY23 and are planning to produce almost 1 lakh units in the next year. Similarly, Mahindra and Mahindra is coming out in this region, and other players like Volvo, Citroen, etc. are coming to this electric vehicle. So, but penetration is just 1% against 14% global penetration. And if you talk about the China, the penetration is around 18-19%. So yes,
So,
you're right
yes,
that
we have,
the penetration is higher in the two-wheeler
yes.
segment. And
Yes, but we have a long way to go. There's no taking away from that in terms of comparisons with China, in terms of
yes,
catching up with the kind of play that there is in the EV space. But Hormazd, you were talking about this being much more of an urban phenomenon, and one wonders whether this has to do a lot more with the infrastructure that's available in cities, and the people are still going to make a choice. You said EVs and ICs are going to kind of grow together, but when it comes to making choices, it is going to be a choice. It's going to be a toss-up between the two, right? And I'm just wondering what kind of EVs are going to be able to hit that sweet spot, because pricing has been a tricky one. When we talk of that sweet spot, we try to map it to the demographics of the EV buyer today, the budget that they have, and I'm wondering what it takes to make them choose an EV over an internal combustion engine vehicle, which haven't quite gone out of style, just like you point out.
Well, I think a vehicle like the Nexon EV has already hit the sweet spot, and that is the sweet spot. I mean, there's no point having a bigger battery to give you more range, because you won't always need it. Cars with bigger batteries are automatically more expensive. So I think, that's where the infrastructure will have to play a significant role. Right now, charging infrastructure is there. It's again, grown quite significantly, but it's still fiddly to use. You have to download apps. They're not very reliable. They're not very fast. Typically 25 kilowatt, is what the norm which Tata Power gives. Now people are giving 50, 60 kilowatt charging stations. So I think the answer is not to have cars with more range, but to improve the charging infrastructure. And I think, in fact, what we will see a trend is, if the charging infrastructure comes, and the Comet is a classic case of that, and perhaps it's even a vehicle ahead of its time, it's got a very small battery. So they can, price it reasonably well, because in the end, the largest percentage of the cost of any EV is the battery. So the bigger the battery, the more expensive it is. It's just pretty straightforward. So to get away with a smaller battery and to hence get away with manage a smaller price, you will need better charging infrastructure. So I think the sweet spot really is, I would still say, a vehicle with between a 30 and 40 kilowatt hour battery. That's well priced, good for city commutes. And then you need the charging infrastructure to kind of support it being an out of town vehicle as well. But choosing one between the other, clearly, even if a consumer feels that he has to take that one or two several trips out of town, he might just tilt towards an ICE, because just in case, he needs that, he doesn't want to be stuck. So I think it's that final push is going to come from the infrastructure side to really reach that takeoff point. Of course, you will be getting more vehicles. You'll get more mass manufacturers coming. Maruti is coming in 25, in 24, 25. Mahindra's coming in. Right now, it's just, Tata kind of leading the race. They've really got no competition as yet. So once competition comes, that will also kind of develop the whole ecosystem. And what I suspect is that the big surge will come after 2025. Between 2025 and 2030, we'll see a massive and rapid acceleration in EV penetration and growth and sales.
So talking about creation of that ecosystem, like Hormazd is pointing out, Kranti, how do you see that as a standout as far as the EV industry is concerned in terms of the AI play? Autonomous is the buzzword as well, like we've seen in JLR's case. How much of the newer technologies are getting tied into EVs now? What do you see in the pipeline?
As Hormazd mentioned, 2-3 things are still at a very initial stage. If we talk about the charging network, whether it's usage of apps or downloading all these apps and usage, and at times network issues also there. Most of the AI or the tech features, most of the electric vehicles which we have seen, they're loaded with tech features, and some of them have better features than their ICE counterpart. But at the same time, what I also wanted to add, as far as the charging network is concerned, one thing which we have seen has helped many EV buyers who were kind of confused or in dilemma is the way state governments have also and local societies and housing colonies have also kind of started looking at giving charging stations, charging points at in their parking. Even the local authorities, they have started talking to RWAs, and I think when you look at that kind of transformation at the grassroots level, that is, I've seen a few of the societies in Noida, in Delhi. They have kind of changed the mindset of many users, because that is the first question which everyone used to ask. Now, not anymore. So they are looking at whether is it sensible or not, and should I go for EV or rather go for ICE, because once in a month or twice a year I take it out also. So that has helped EV transformation in, I guess, last 1 or 2 years, which I've seen from a bureaucratic or RWA kind of initiative.
Also, Hormazd, do weigh in on the affordability front, because like we said, that's going to be a key area. But we see a lot of the luxury players, the premium players, also go after EV. Is their approach really different? Because it has been a while for four-wheeler makers within the EV universe to roll out their products. Only today we are seeing MG Comet, but they have been slow in the coming. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, at the top end, the luxury end, yeah, they're all there. Most of them are imports, direct imports. I think only Mercedes is locally assembling, a luxury EV, which is the EQS, and the lower end Hyundai is doing it. But, these are just a handful of imports. They're not really going to move the needle. It's just for these companies to show how EV ready they are, to show their EV tech. It's just the right thing to do right now. So I don't see these, models really making a huge impact. It'll happen from the mass market brands. As I said, Mahindra, Maruti for sure. Maruti's got a huge plan for EVs. So I think it's really, fundamentally going to be these three. You've got MG also right now, but, I think they're limited by their capacity as to how much they can produce. And you've got Citroen as well. So these are the mass brands which are there. But again, Citroen off to a slow start. So I think eventually, I think the choice is also going to drive growth, make people more aware. And I think, Kranti raised a very good point is, at the grassroots level, once it's more convenient to charge your vehicle, I think people will automatically switch to EVs much faster as well. So I think with all this happening, the growth definitely is there. It's going to be rapid. How rapid remains to be seen. But I see the tipping point coming after 2025, where, probably we'll have a substantial percentage, might even be into double digits, 2025 to 2030, as the new models come in.
Very quickly, would you suggest that someone who's out in the market right now wait until 2025, or should they kind of go for the EV right now?
No, I think, if the usage is mainly in town, I'd say definitely go for an EV, because actually, forget the running cost or buying it for the environment. EVs are much better than ICE vehicles in many ways. There are several factors. One is, if you have easy charging, it's more convenient than an ICE, because you never have to petrol pump. The petrol pump is at your home or your office. So, you never have to wait in a queue, and you know how irritating that is when you're late to work and suddenly realize you've got no fuel and there's a big queue at the pump. We've all experienced that. So I think it's in a way far more convenient than actually having a nice vehicle. Secondly, the way it's easy to drive. Today, EVs are the best automatics you can find. There is no automatic ICE transmission that can match the kind of, the way an EV drives. They're responsive, they're quiet, they're soothing. So it's just the overall feel of an EV. Once you drive it in the city, you get quite addicted to it. So clearly, if your usage is city and you don't mind the extra outlay, I see no reason why you should be buying anything else. But the problem is, it's never, if it's just your single car, you will always want to maybe take it out of town around. You might want that little bit of extra luggage space, in which case there are severe limitations on the EV. Not that you can't do it, but really, I think today taking an EV for long distance on the highway is whatever people say, it's still too inconvenient. No one likes to wait for half an hour, 45 minutes at a charging point, for your EV to top up. And that's if the charging point is work. And that's if no one's there in front of you. I've experienced this. I go to Mahabaleshwar regularly, taken a whole bunch of EVs. And I can tell you that if they don't have the range, it's not fun at all.
It's not fun at all. So convenience is going to come into play, and the kind of usage you're going to put your car to, and if it's within the city, then perhaps an EV definitely makes sense today. And that's why perhaps, like Hormazd is pointing out, it is an urban phenomenon at this stage. But even though it is growing very rapidly. And as infrastructure grows, we're going to see that entire space really gather more momentum, and capex into EVs by these companies. We're talking about Tata Motors, but of course across the board, and government subsidies under the Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Electric Vehicles, FAME 2 scheme. All of that is helping the electrification of transport in the country, and we'll continue to watch it. Thanks indeed for joining us with your perspective. Hormazd Sorabjee, Kranti Sambhav and Abhishek Gaoshinde. Many thanks for lending your insight into the EV universe here on India Tonight. Meanwhile, since